The rain fell hard on the metal streets of Varnock City, a place where poor aliens were pushed into shadows and forgotten. She stood in the middle of a tan alien woman with soft lavender skin, soaked and shivering. Her thin arms wrapped tightly around her two children. One child was coughing again, weak and pale, while the other looked up with wide, hungry eyes. Her name was Sarah, and she was once part of a proud tribe, but that didn't matter anymore. Her husband had died in a mine collapse 2 cycles ago, and after that, no one wanted her. In her world, a single mother without a male protector was considered useless. The tribe threw her out, calling her a burden. Since then, she had knocked on every shelter, every food station, even begged near the trade gates, but all doors closed on her. "Go back to where you came from," one alien said last week. "Only bring disease," said another. Some ignored her completely. A few threw food on the ground, but only after laughing. She took it anyway. Now she was standing outside the last medical dome on the outer ring, her youngest son coughing like his lungs would stop working any second. Her daughter hugged her leg tightly, her tiny body trembling. The guards at the gate didn't even look at her. They just stared ahead, faces like stone. Sarah took one step forward and whispered, "Please, someone help us." The guards didn't move. The taller one even turned his back, as if pretending she didn't exist. Just as Sarah was about to fall to her knees, a voice spoke from behind her. "Is that child breathing normally?" She turned fast, surprised. A human stood there. Tall man in a worn-out medic coat, his boots splashed with mud and a small scanner in his hand. His face didn't show fear or hate, it only showed focus. He stepped closer and looked directly at the little boy in her arms. "How long has he been coughing like this?" 3 days, she answered, her voice shaking. "He can't eat. And he's so cold, I don't know what to do." The human didn't say another word. He placed his scanner near the child's chest. A few quick beeps later, he frowned. "He has lung rot, early stage. Treatable, but not if he stays out here," Sarah gasped, holding her son tighter. "Is he going to die?" "Not if you come with me now," the human said. Sarah froze. "They won't let us in." "The guards." "I don't care about the guards," he said, pulling off his coat and wrapping it around her son. "Come." One of the guards finally noticed them and stepped forward. "Hey, those 3 have no ID. She's a street wanderer. Orders are to keep them out." "I know the orders," the human replied. "This is a medical emergency. I'm taking full responsibility." The second guard joined in, blocking their way. "You're risking your license, human. That woman's a waste of space. You're better off leaving her." The medic didn't even blink. "She has children. One of them is dying. I won't walk away." The scanner on his wrist lit up blue and override code meant for emergencies. The guards hesitated. One looked ready to argue again, but then stepped back slowly. "If anything happens, it's on you." "I know," the medic said quietly. He gently took the boy from Sarah's arms and nodded at her. "Follow me." Sarah didn't move at first. Her body was still wet and cold, and her legs weak from days of walking. But then her daughter tugged, her arm whispering, "Mama, please, let's go." So they followed the human through the metal gate, past the guards who didn't speak again. Inside the medical dome, the air was warm. The lights were soft. Machines beeped quietly in the background. The human placed the boy on a padded bed and attached a breathing mask to his face. "He'll be okay," he said. "But he needs warmth, fluids, and rest." Sarah stood in the corner, unsure if she should sit or speak. Her daughter climbed beside the boy, curling up near him. "You didn't have to help us," Sarah said softly. "Why did you?" Looked over, adjusting the settings on the machine, "Because no one else did." That answer stayed with her. In all the time she had begged, no one ever asked how her children were doing. No one offered help. And yet this human, this outsider risked punishment, broke protocol, and gave her son a fighting chance. She didn't even know his name, but at that moment, she knew one thing: this man was different, and maybe, just maybe, their nightmare was about to end. The rain didn't stop, and neither did the stairs inside the clinic dome. Warm light filled the small room, but outside, through the glass aliens walked past, glancing in with judgment, confusion, or disgust. They saw an alien mother and her two dirty children sitting on a bed, and beside them, a human medic moving fast with medicine in his hands. To the others, this was madness. To him, it was duty. His name was Elias, a field medic assigned 2 low-priority zones on the outer ring. Most days, he treated factory injuries and old miners. But that day, he saw something no one else wanted to see: a woman holding her sick child like he was the last thing she had. And maybe. Sarah sat near the bed, eyes red from crying but still alert. Her daughter clung to her side. The little boy now wore warm wraps and had a small breathing mask on. The machine next to him beeped steady and slow. His lungs are fighting, Elias said without looking up. He was close to shutting down. Another day in the cold would have taken him. Sarah whispered, "Thank you." But Elias didn't smile. Not yet. He walked across the room, opened a cabinet, and pulled out an old, dry coat. Without a word, he handed it to Sarah. She hesitated. "For me." "Put it on," he said. "You're freezing." Her hands trembled as she slipped it over her shoulders. The coat was too big and smelled like old McGill and smoke butt. It was the first warm thing she'd worn in weeks. Then the clinic door buzzed. Elias checked the screen. It was security. "They followed us," Sarah said, panic rising in her voice. She stood quickly, placing herself between the door and her children. "They'll take us back. They'll separate us. I know how it goes." Elias turned, calm and firm. "Not here. Not while I'm standing." He opened the door without fear. 2 alien security officers stepped in, tall and armored. One scanned the room, eyes locking onto Sarah. "You're harboring unauthorized street dwellers," the officer said sharply. Elias didn't move. "I reported a medical emergency and issued an override. She's not part of the system." The second guard said, "Neither are the kids. She has no ID, no credits, no tribal backing. That means removal." Elias pointed to the boy, still coughing. "He would have died tonight." "And what about tomorrow?" the guard asked. "Are you going to save every outsider you see? The city's full of them. They multiply like pests. If we don't draw the line, I draw my line right here." Elias interrupted. "You want to arrest me? Go ahead. I've already filed the case report. This child is under my care. You touch him, you answer for it." The room was silent. Even Sarah stopped breathing. After a long moment, the guards stepped back. One of them shook his head. "You'll regret this, human." They always find a way to ruin what you give them. They left without another word. Elias closed the door, locked it, then turned to find Sarah sitting down again, shoulders shaking. She wasn't crying, but she looked ready too. "You stood up for us," she said softly, "even when they warned you." "They've warned me before," he replied. "I don't care." Sarah looked up at him, confused. "Why?" He finally sat across from her, arms crossed, eyes tired but honest. "Because I've seen what happens when no one stands up. I've seen children die on cold streets while others walk past. I've seen mothers bury their babies because someone said not my problem. I've seen it too much." She didn't speak, "And I know what it's like to lose someone," he added. That part made her look at him differently. There was pain in his voice, old and buried, but real. He stood up again. Busying himself with mixing more medicine, Sarah leaned back against the wall, the coat around her like a shield. Her daughter had already curled up, half asleep, her small face finally calm. "You could have walked away," she said again. Elias glanced at her, but I didn't. That night, Sarah didn't sleep much. But for the first time in weeks, she didn't stay awake from fear. She stayed awake wondering, who was this man, and why did he care? The next morning came with trouble knocking. Sarah had just finished helping her daughter drink warm soup when the clinic lights blinked red. Elias froze. That blinking meant only one thing: a government patrol was on the way inside. He stepped to the console and saw the alert: City Patrol, random sweep ID verification required. Sarah stood, panicking. "They're going to scan me. They'll see I'm unregistered. They'll take my children away." Her voice cracked, not from fear, but from a memory that lived inside her like a wound. She had seen it before, other mothers losing their young, for being unfit, for lacking papers or support. She had survived because she ran. She had never stopped running. Elias looked at the two children. The boy was still sick but stronger, sitting up with a faint smile. The girl clung to Sarah. Again. This was not a family of criminals, just survivors, and wanted by their own kind, and hunted by a system that only saw rules. "We don't have time," Sarah said, grabbing her kids. "We need to hide." Elias didn't move. "Safe in this building? They'll scan every room. If they find you hiding, it gets worse." "Then what do we do?" He turned to her and did something she'd never expected. He reached into his drawer and pulled out a forged ID chip. "You're going to say you're my patient? Under medical quarantine? Your name is Rella Varn. You were exposed to spore sickness during a cleaning job in the mines. Your children are with you for supervision. Say nothing else." Sarah stared at the chip. You carry fake IDs." "Not fake," Elias said. "Just not entirely legal." She took the chip with trembling hands. The knock on the door came hard 3 bangs. The kind that didn't wait for answers. Elias opened the door slowly. 2 patrol officers in heavy gray armor stepped in, scanning the room with those cold eyes all enforcers wore. "This facility was flagged for a sweep," one of them said. "State your name and authorization." "Madik Ilyas Rowe," he said. Calmly, "This clinic operates under emergency city code. My ID and override codes are in the system." One officer scanned his badge. The light turned green. "Who's the alien female?" Second one asked, pointing straight at Sarah. "Elias?" Answered smoothly. "Patient. Early stage spore infection. Came in 3 days ago. Symptoms confirmed. Quarantine protocol active. Children or minors came with her." The officers raised their scanners and pointed them at Sarah. Sarah held her breath. The chip Elias gave her was in her pocket. She had to think fast. She held out her arm. The scanner beeped. Red. The guards looked. "Okay." Up sharply. "Her data's not matching." Elias stepped forward, eyes steady. "That's because her original registry was lost during the mine collapse. I submitted her re-entry code yesterday. Check again. It should be pending in the system." The guards exchanged glances. One of them pulled out a handheld device and tapped in the override code Elias had filed just hours ago. He had done it in secret, hoping this moment wouldn't come so soon. This time, the scanner beeped blue. "Pending verification," the device said. The guard lowered his scanner. "Fine, but keep her locked down. If she leaves the clinic, and we catch her without clearance, you'll be charged for aiding fugitives." Elias nodded. "Understood."
Ow.
They walked out, boots echoing. On the metal floor, the door sealed behind them with a hiss. Silence. Sarah collapsed to the floor, holding her kids tight. "You lied for me," she whispered. "You broke the law." Elias walked over and sat beside her. "I didn't break the law. I bent it." "The right reason." She looked at him like he wasn't real. "I don't understand you," she said. "No one lies for people like me. No one risks everything for children that aren't theirs." Elias didn't answer right away. He looked at the boy who was now sleeping peacefully, his breathing slow and even. Then at the girl playing quietly with a roll of bandage wrap, pretending it was a toy. "I had a daughter once," Elias said. "Finally, she died in a camp while I was away on duty. They told me she was sick, but I wasn't there to help her. I failed her." Sarah covered her mouth, eyes wide. She had no words. Elias stood again, straightened his coat, and walked to the supply shelf. "I couldn't save her. Maybe I can save them." For a moment, the only sound in the clinic was the soft hum of the healing machine. Sarah didn't cry. She just stared at Elias, her heart racing not with fear, but with something else she hadn't felt in a long time. Trust. Sarah had been in clinics before, never like this. Not the ones where they tossed her out after checking her skin color. It's not the ones where they charged more than she could ever pay. Not the ones where they scanned her body like she was infected. Trash this place was different inside Elias's small human clinic. Everything smelled clean but not sharp. The walls were old but warm. Lights weren't too bright, and every corner had something that showed Kara: folded blanket, soft slippers, a chair with cushions. even a jar filled with small toys for kids. Sarah sat on the edge of the bed while her daughter lay next to her, half asleep. Her son was hooked up to a low-frequency healing light, and the beeping of his vitals was no longer scary, it was steady. Not calm, like a slow heartbeat whispering hope. Elias walked in with a tray. On it was a bowl of broth, a few pieces of bread, and a cup of warm water. "For you," he said. Sarah blinked. "That's real food," he nodded. "Grew it myself. Not perfect, but safe." She looked down at the food, then at her children. Her instincts screamed to give it to them first. Elias noticed. "They've already eaten," he said. "They needed it fast. Now you do." Sarah picked up the bread. Slowly, the first bite nearly broke her. It's not because it tasted amazing, but because it didn't hurt. She had eaten scraps, spoiled roots, trash from behind vendors. But this was made for people who mattered. She looked at Elias. "How do you have all this? You live alone?" "This is not a big city clinic. I get leftovers from the main dome," he replied. "Fix what's broken, keep what still works. Nobody checks the outer ring much." Sarah swallowed hard. "Then why spend it on me? Why not save it for someone useful?" Elias stared at her for a long moment, then walked to a cabinet, pulled out a tiny square piece of cloth, a drawing made in faded ink. It showed a human girl holding a flower. "My daughter drew this before she got sick," he said. "She always asked me why I never helped the ones outside the gates. I didn't have an answer." He placed the drawing on the wall beside a photo. "Of her and him? She's not here anymore, but you are." Sarah looked away, tears forming, but she blinked them back. "I can work," she said suddenly. "I can clean, fix pipes, so tears cook too. I just need a place to stay. I don't want to be a burden." Elias gave her a small smile. "You're not a burden. You're a mother. That alone makes you stronger than half the soldiers I've treated." Before Sarah could reply, a knock sounded not at the main door, but at the back hatch near the supply zone. Elias tensed. He moved toward the scanner screen. Sarah watched his face change, focused, serious. "It's another medic," he said. "Dr. Linari. She doesn't like rules either, but she does like asking questions." He opened the hatch slowly. A tall alien woman walked in, skin pale blue, eyes sharp, and arms full of crates. "You really did it, Doctor," Linari said. Words out too, took in the street woman and her spawn. "You're either brave or stupid," Elias smirked. "Bit of both? Got supplies?" Linari placed the crates on the table and opened one. "Medicine, food packs, blankets. I brought these in case your kindness kills your clinic," she said. Then she turned to Sarah. "You're lucky. No one here risks their name for our kind, especially not for mothers like you." Sarah lowered her eyes. "I didn't ask him to." "That's what makes it worse," Linari said with a dry laugh. "He did it anyway." She handed Sarah a small data pad, basic registration. "Fill this in. If you're staying, you'll need a name they can't erase." Sarah took it slowly. "Do I have to lie?" Elias answered, before Linari could. "Rewrite the truth in a way the system understands." Later that night, after Linari left, Sarah sat beside her son. Watching him sleep without coughing for the first time in days, she looked around the clinic again. The clean walls, soft hum of machines, the food in her belly, the warmth in her children's cheeks, all of it felt impossible. And yet it was real, she whispered to herself, not knowing Elias was still awake in the other room. "This place isn't just a clinic," she said. "It's the first place that didn't want to throw us away." Elias heard her. He closed his eyes, and for the first time in years, he didn't feel alone either. Sarah stood quietly in the early morning light, her son's coat wrapped around her arm, her daughter sleeping against her shoulder. It was time to go. The human clinic had saved them more than once. Warmth, medicine, food, even hope. Of it belonged to her, not really. This place was safe, but she didn't want to risk Elias's life any longer. He had already lied to the patrol, bent the law, and fed them from his own hands. She couldn't stay and watch the city crush him. Sarah looked around the small clinic one last time. Her son was sleeping peacefully, the breathing mask removed just hours ago. His skin had color again, his cough no longer sharp. He looked alive, truly alive. It was why she believed they could survive now even outside. She moved quickly. The satchel was light. She packed only what was needed. Few dry meal packs, a water capsule, a warm wrap Elias had given her daughter, and the fake ID chip. The moment Elias stepped out for a call, she took her chance. She lifted her son carefully, kissed his head, then helped her daughter to her feet. "Stay quiet, little one. We're going to find a new place." Her daughter nodded. She didn't ask why they were leaving. She had learned not to ask too many questions. Sarah reached the back door, opened it just wide enough to slip through, and then her son coughed a sheaf, as it wasn't a soft cough. It was deep, rattling, painful. His body went limp in her arms. "Roland, stay with me," she whispered, her heart racing. Her daughter screamed. Elias burst in from the hallway, saw the panic in Sarah's eyes, and rushed to them. "What happened?" "I don't know," she cried. "He was fine. I thought he was fine. We were just—" He didn't wait for her to finish. He pulled the child from her arms and rushed back inside, shouting commands to the healing bed. Lights turned red. The machine scanned rapidly. The numbers flashed fast. "His lungs are swelling again," Elias said. "You moved him too early. He's not ready to walk yet." "I didn't mean to. I just didn't want to make trouble. I thought we were safe now. I thought—" Elias didn't raise his voice. He didn't yell. He didn't scold. He looked at her with quiet sadness. "You were trying to protect me," he said. "But now you see, this isn't about me anymore. It's about him. He needs more time. He needs you to stay." She wiped her eyes with the edge of her sleeve. "I don't know how to stay. I don't know how to believe we're allowed." Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to believe it right now. Just don't run." The machine beeped again, then turned green. Her son was stable, but Sarah didn't stand. She sat on the cold floor, holding her daughter close, breathing slow. Heart heavy for the first time, she realized how deep the fear had grown inside her. How every kind touch made her afraid. How every kind word felt like a trap. All she had known was rejection, until now, that night. Elias didn't ask her questions. He didn't demand explanations. He simply brought her a fresh blanket, tucked her son into bed, and made tea for her daughter. They sat in the quiet together, three aliens and one human, surrounded by beeping machines, warm lights, an unspoken understanding. Sarah finally spoke as her daughter drifted off to sleep. "Do you think we'll ever belong anywhere?" Elias answered, without turning around. "You already do, right here. But what if someone finds out?" she asked. "About the IDs, about us?" He shrugged. "Then I'll lie again." She almost smiled, but her voice shook. "They'll punish you for helping us." "Then let them," he said. "I'd rather be punished for saving someone than be safe while doing nothing." Sarah leaned back, eyes full of something between grief and relief. "No one's ever said that to me before." "Well," Elias said, pouring another cup of tea, "get used to it, because I'm not the only human who would." She looked at him now, not like a medic, not like a rescuer, but like something deeper. Something she couldn't name yet. But she stayed this time, not because she had no choice, but because someone finally gave her one. The clinic lights were dim, the night outside cold and silent. Sarah sat by the heater with her daughter wrapped in her arms, and her son sleeping in the bed behind her. For once, the world felt quiet, safe even, but her heart still carried the weight of every door that had slammed in her face. Elias sat across from her, sipping a mug of bitter tea. He had just finished checking the boy's vitals for the third time that evening. Everything was steady now. Stable, but the silence between them was not. "I wasn't always like this," Sarah said, her voice soft, her eyes staring at the floor. "I wasn't always afraid." Elias looked up, but didn't speak. He waited. "I was part of a proud family once," she continued. "My mate was strong, respected in the mines. We had a small home, not much, but it was ours. When I found out, I was carrying our second child. We danced. We actually danced in the rain." Her lips trembled. Her fingers clutched the edge of her daughter's blanket. "But then he died," she whispered. The ceiling collapsed and the ones in charge refused to dig. Said the area was unstable. I begged them for 3 days. They didn't even give me the body. Elias lowered his eyes. Sura's voice grew tighter. After that, they called me a curse. Said I brought misfortune. They stripped our name from the registry. I lost my home, my rights, my protection. No one would speak to me, not even my brother. She paused, staring at the heater, as if it might answer for all the cruelty she'd faced. My daughter was born in a storage crate behind the old rail station. No one helped. I cut the cord myself, wrapped her in broken cloth, and held her as she screamed in the cold. Elias felt a burn in his chest. Not from the tea, but from the truth she carried. They said, I was dirty, she added. That I should give the children up to the state, but I couldn't. I didn't trust them. Saw what happened to others. Those children never came back. She turned toward him now, her eyes red but strong. I didn't want to live in hiding. I didn't want to teach my children to be afraid of every knock on the door, but I had no choice. Until you. Elias didn't reply right away. He looked at her for a long time, silence stretching between them like a thread pulled too tight. Then he spoke. I had a daughter too, he said. Her name was Mira. She was 7. Sarah listened, quiet and still. I was stationed in another zone planet, Kralis. There was an outbreak. I was treating miners who got sick from spores. I stayed for 2 weeks. I missed her birthday. Took a deep breath, steady in his hands. By the time I came back, she was gone. Fever hit fast. My wife tried everything. But the local med center was full. No one had time. One nurse told her to wait. Just wait. His jaw tightened. Died waiting. Sarah didn't speak. She knew that kind of pain. I kept asking myself what I could have done, he said. If I had left earlier, if I had taken her with me, if I had taught my wife the right medicine, not the 1,000 what-ifs, but they didn't change anything. Leaned back, looking up at the clinic's old ceiling. I transferred here after that. No family, no attachments. Just fixing what I can. Sarah stood and walked over slowly. She placed a hand on his shoulder. It was a small gesture, but to Elias. It felt like someone opening a window in a room that had been sealed for years. You saved my son, she said. You didn't let him die waiting. He nodded once, eyes glassy as she sat beside him, her daughter, now asleep in her arms. For a while, neither of them spoke. They didn't need to in that moment. Their stories no longer felt like chains. They felt like bridges, not healer and patient, not alien and human, just 2 broken people, trying to heal each other without even knowing how. The heater hummed. The clinic lights blinked softly, and for the first time, their pain felt just a little lighter. The sun rose quietly over the rust-colored rooftops of Varnak City. Inside the old clinic, something had changed. The machine still hummed, the lights still blinked, but the silence was no longer empty. It was peaceful. Sarah stepped into the main room, holding her son's hand, while her daughter skipped a little ahead. Her son no longer needed the breathing mask. His steps were light but steady. He smiled for the first time in weeks. Elias stood near the supply shelf, sorting vials. Turned when he heard them. Relens up early. He said he wanted to. Surprise you, Sarah replied. The boy walked up to Elias and held out a tiny planta, bent little sprout in a cracked cup. I found this near the vent. I gave it water. Mama said it might live. Elias crouched down, smiling. Then I'll help it grow. He took the plant like it was the most important thing in the world and placed it near the window, where the light came in. Bess Sarah watched the moment closely. No, her son had never had anyone to show kindness to. Until now, after breakfast, Elias handed her a small data tablet. These are yours, he said. Sarah frowned. What is it? Official registration, he explained. New identity codes, new health files, a housing request already approved. You'll have your own place in the outer ring. Close to the clinic, Sarah's hand shook as she held the tablet. I don't understand. How did you do this? I called in favors, Elias said. Pulled some strings. You're not invisible anymore. She looked at the screen. 3 names, all cleared in legal rela. Varndara, Varnrellen, Varntears filled her eyes. She sat down, holding the tablet to her chest. I never thought we'd have a name again, she whispered. Lias walked over, quiet and calm. Now you do, and no one can take it from you. She stood and looked at him fully. For the first time without fear, you didn't just heal my son, she said. You gave us a life. He shrugged. That's what humans do. I think it's what good people do. They stood in silence for a moment, the air soft between them. Her daughter ran up and pulled at Ilias's hand. Can we still visit you? Even if we have a new house? Only if you bring snacks, Elias said with a laugh. The girl grinned and ran off to her brother. Then Sarah did something she hadn't done in a long time. She reached out and took Ilias's hand, not for safety, not out of fear, but out of choice. You saved us, she said, and I will never forget. Elias looked at her hand in his and held it tighter. I didn't just save you, he said. You saved me too. For years he had worked in silence, carried guilt, avoided connection, but now there was laughter in his clinic, there were footsteps, there was life. And it all started the day he saw a mother in the rain and decided not to walk away that evening as the sun dipped below the towers. The clinic lights stayed on. Sarah packed their few belongings. Ready to start fresh, Elias stood by the door, watching them go, not with sadness, but with pride, because he knew they'd be back, not as patients, but as family, and in a galaxy that too often forgot the weak, the broken, and the lost. One human remembered. He took a stand, he gave them a chance, and in return, they gave him something he never expected, a second chance of his own.